Rabbi Say, welcome back to Yerushalmi Shabbos. We are holding Pei Aleph Amud Beis. Just a reminder that in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be President's Day in the USA. I have been asked by Torah Anytime to fundraise for their tremendous system. There's various new things that are coming along which all cost money. So if you can help me, you'll see a tab above my face on the page there, wherever it is. If you can help, thank you very much. We are up to Halacha Dalet. Bayam, Arba Amas Potter, one who throws something into the sea a distance of 4 Amas is Potter. You had like a stream or big pond or a stream puddle, and the people walk through it. So basically, it crosses the width of the street, and people just cross it as they're going. Then if you throw something into it, you're liable because this pond or stream or whatever it is treated. They walk through it, so it's treated as a public thoroughfare. But what is the maximum depth of rekak mayim that it should be treated as the public thoroughfare? Less than 10 tzvachim. If it's deeper than that, then it's got a din of kamalis. Rekak mayim b'shus rabbi malachas by. If you do have a stream, whatever, and people walk through it, so there's a bit of repetition here. If you throw something into it, 4 amas, you are liable. So there is repetition. We will discuss why it's repeated. Right, let's see. Not only 4 amas in the sea, and the whole length of the sea, you are part of the whole sea is called kamalis. It's only asking Rabbanan to carry that. Now, why does the Mishnah mention this rekak mayim interest rabbim twice? He says they had 2. One which was easy to go through, one of them is a bit more difficult when it's a doichek, when it's a kaishi. So Shalai time, don't say as far as the second one, well, they only go in it when they're pushed and pressed to it. You'll say, well, maybe it's a communist or something. Maybe that's why it says that's also considered Rabim. Even walking with difficulty is still considered walking through. Right? Some say that people only go in when they're pushed to do so after the strong rains. It always reminds me when I visited Venice, but I wasn't going in the midwinter when the water rises further than in the summer, and there's part of the pathways where they just have metal crates and the people walk along the metal crates down these paths because the water just comes in. Anyway, even with their big barriers and everything, still. If you're throwing an item from the sea to the dry land, which is Rishus Rabim, dry land to the sea, and the sea to the ship, one ship to another one, Patul, the sea is a kamalis, as we have said. Boats tied next to each other, you can carry from one to the other, they're both private domains. If they are not tied, even though they're surrounded from walls, they're right next to each other, there's no gap. You cannot carry one to the other because they'll distance more than 4 tefachim away, and therefore it's a kamalis sort of in between. Now, you're allowed to carry between boats that are tied together. He said, they're tied with some sort of rubber or some rope. Providing they made an eruv between the 2 households. Yeah, even if they're tied, you need to have an eruv between them as well. Otherwise, you can't carry between 2 private domains. But one said you can carry from the boats. Only when there's not 4 tefachim between. But the other one said you can carry even if there's 4 tefachim between. Who said what? He was the one who brought you can carry even if the boats are not 10 high above the sea. If he said that, he must be the one who said that you can carry between the boats only if you do not have a gap of 4 tvachim, because otherwise you got 10 and you got 4. But he must have been the one who said this. The boats of the ship are 10 high. If they're not 10 high, then it's not is even a Rishus Yachid, it's a Karmelis, like the sea itself. Okay, but it's not 10 high above the sea. Okay. Let's carry on. Have a boy Mema. The Chachamim Yeshiva wanted to say Mando, but the one who said V'sheim ben en rechav abba, you don't have a gap of 4 between them, because he allows it. Even if the walls of the boat is not 10 tefachim above the sea. Excuse me. So if it's not 10 above the sea, if the gap between them was 4, you would have Avir Kamalis, and the Eruv would be butter. Mando, the one who said you can carry between the boats, only if they're Gavos Asara, they're 10 high, then he allows the carrying even if there's 4 Tvachim gap, because the Avir Kamalis reaches to the height of 10 Tvachim. Above that is Mokum Patur. So even if there is a gap of 4, it doesn't matter. It's Mokum Patur. It doesn't cancel the Eruv. And that which we said Avir Kamalis is Kikamelis, that's only in the case where Kol Avir Kamalis Techasara. That's only if above the 10 from the ground, our Kamalis is a Mokum Patur. So 1 second. Behu, when the Chachamim said that Avir Kamalis is a Kamalis and not a Mokum Patur, that's only Shehikol Avir Kamalis B'Teichasara. It means within 10. Above 10, it's Mokum Patur. Within 10, it's considered a Kamalis. Okay? Svina Shabayom. I'm talking about taking things from the sea to the boat. Svina Shabayom, the boat in the sea. Gavaya Asar Tvachim. It's high 10 Tvachim. Don't carry into the sea from the sea to it. He said, if it was a depth of 10, but it didn't reach above the water 10. So the walls of the boats are tall, but however, they're a bit submerged. They're not 10 above the sea, because the sea is a bit soaked into the ground because of the weight. You know what? You can carry from the ship to the sea, but not the other way around. Why from the sea, from the ship to the sea is permitted? Because the boat is not 10 above the water, and therefore it's not Kamalis, and you're carrying Kamalis and Kamalis. In Kalim, that's the case, then you should carry from the sea into the boat. So why can you not carry from the sea to the boat? It must be, it's got a depth. The walls of the boat are high, Asara. And there was Shus Yachid. In Kalim, that's the case, then even from it to the sea should be forbidden. So why are you distinguishing between the boat to the sea or the sea to the boat? Do you know why you carry to the sea? Even though the ship is private domain, it might be dangerous. Imagine if all this water comes into the boat and the boat might start sinking, so you're allowed to get rid of the water, the extra water, to get it to leave the boat. If you have a rock in the sea, if it's 10 tvachim above the sea, for example, Rockall, is that right? Is that one of the rocks in the Atlantic Ocean? Rockall? Yeah? Yeah. So instead as opposed to the Isle of Sealand, which is something else. So if a boat is in the sea and it's 10 tvachim high, and it's at least 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, do not carry from it into the sea, from the sea to it, because the sea is a Karmelis and the rock is a private domain. If it's less than 10 tvachim musa, then you're allowed to carry from the sea to the rock, or from the rock to the sea. Ma ben sela, ma ben sfina. What's the difference between the boat and the hard rock? The hard place, the hard rock. He said, what's the difference between them? He says the last brisa with the rock in the sea is much you can carry from the sea to the rock, even if it's 10 high. But it's not noticeable, it's not noticeable above the sea. Let's say it's a bit submerged in the sea. But the brisa says the boat is coming, everyone agrees you cannot carry from the sea to the boat if this boat is a bit submerged and it's not 10 high above the sea. So what difference is that? So he says, Sfina olav yoredes, the boat goes up and down. Therefore we treat it as Rishus Yachid, you cannot carry in it. Whereas Selab and Komo, the rock stays where it is. And it's never going to be treated as Rishus Yachid. Therefore it's a kamas you can carry from the sea to the rock. Now, we learned with the rock in the sea, we said, Beis Hasayim, the area, as long as it's not too big, until at Beis Hasayim. Now the rock is surely a Karmelis. Now, a base Asayim area, if it's so big, then you can't carry the whole area. Only 4 amas. Ravila said, it says on Roisha, look at the ratio of the Brisa. It says, Sela Shabayam, the rock in the sea, Gavah, so 10 Tvachim Hayim, you can't carry from the sea to the sea. And you can carry there, providing that the area of the rock is until Beis Hasayim. But if it's more than Beis Hasayim, Yosemikan, Nasas Gemchitza Shehukva, is like a wall, an area of rock has been surrounded by walls for Zraim, for seeds. You can only carry there 4 amas, not the whole area. Parchas Mikan, if the height of the rock is less than 10 Tvachim, the sea to it, into the sea, or you can carry there ad Beis Hasayim until Beis Hasayim. If you can carry between the sea, which is a Kabbalist, to the rock, which is also Kabbalist, you'll tell me 2 Kabbalists next to each other, you can carry one to the other. But you're not allowed to carry from one type of Kabbalist to another. Because sad, the sea surrounds the rock from all sides, is all considered one. He said, you have a plank which is sticking out, right, beyond the boat, and it goes above the sea. Right, maybe one of those walk the planks over there, yes? But it's not 4 tvachim wide. One can do one's business there and sit on it on Shabbos, right? And from the board, and the sewage will go into the sea, or to get a pail of water to get there to bring it up. If he said there's leniency, let's say a box which has got no base, and it sort of sticks out above the sea. Remember, the Babli brings about a curtain, you make a mechitza around it, and it goes through a mechitza. So if you're going to tell me it's like a box with no base, and it's sticking above the sea, yos, I'd understand. You bought a plank, and you can't sit on it. No, then I would have understood. You're in some sort of framework. But here, you've just put a board there, why couldn't you just sit on it and use this? The Chachamim don't want you to take something in from Rishus HaYachid and leave it in a Mokum Patur, and then afterwards go through Rishus HaRabim. So here you're using a Mokum Patur to take something from a private domain to a public domain. And this is what it said, even taking something Rishus which is Menatera or Rishus which is Rabbanan. So it forbids you to use this beam, which is less than 4 wide, to carry from the boat to the sea, because you're carrying things from a private domain to a Karmelis through a Mokum Patur. So let's say, Rabbi Avon said, if you want to find a solution then to allow carrying between it and the sea on Shabbos, you bring out a beam and you distance it from the boat more than 3 tvachim away. And it doesn't have 4 tvachim wide, and you make a hole, but and the walls on the side as if they extend upwards. And we treat the thickness of the nesa as if it's going up, and it's like mechitzas, and therefore you can carry from the boat to the sea through this hole in the board. Rav Yaakov Aracha Rav Amnuna, now why are you distancing it 3 tvachim from the ship? Because when it's close to a wall within 3, it's like part of the mechitza, and the beam becomes part of the ship, which is a private domain. You will not be able to carry from it to the sea and the other way around. Rabbi Yisrael he would command these people to have a parish that if someone's going in a boat, you should make a little open basket without a lid, without base, and through that it's considered the mechitzas carry on, and you can carry from the boat to the sea, and from the sea to the boat, and that's why the words are Rabbana. Now, you're not chayav a korban chatos on Chil Shabbos unless there's a shogeg, right? You forgot it was Shabbos, you didn't know the bracha was forbidden. Now, which part of the Ma'aseh Avera has to be shogeg to be chayav chatos? So Azorik, you throw the stone. B'nizka, and you remember it's Shabbos, ad shaloi teisei, straight away after the thing is miyodai. So straight after the item's left your hand, you realize. Or you throw an item, uklata, and and someone else took it out of the air. Or you threw an item, uklata keleb, a dog plucked it out of the air. Or the thing got burnt in fire before it landed on the ground. Potter, your potter, the one who throws it. Zak, if you throw an item whether to do a wound on a person or animal, you remember before the wound was done, potter, your potter from Chatzah. Zak, to be chayiv, you must have a shaking at the beginning until the end. So Tchilas and Shgaga of 7 Zadan, if in the end it was mazid, you started in Avera b'Shogeg, but before it finished you realized it's forbidden, or Tchilas and Zadan of 7 Shgaga, the other way around, Petzurin. You have part of Chadas Ad Shtei Tchilas and 7 Shgaga. It's got to be Shogeg all the way along. Right? So throwing something with Shus to Shus b'Shogeg, and after it leaves your hand, you realize it's Shabbos, you're part of from Achatas. Now, beginning of Masisa, this is how we read the Mishnah. The Hezid, you intended the Melacha should be complete. The Kashya. Now, the question is like this. If you're going to tell me, after you remember that it's Shabbos, you regret it, and therefore you're part of Machatas, Ilu Yarachet, he says, wait a minute, you throw an arrow, to kill someone, but history by. They warned you beforehand, you know this can kill someone, and he went and sent the arrow. But Chazabai, and he regrets it after the arrow's left him. He can't bring the arrow back. Shema Klomu. Is there any regret in such a case? Surely not. The chiyuv is based on the action that was done. So don't tell me the Mishnah that Patas is the one who throws from Achatas is talking about a case after the item left him, he remembered his Shabbos and he regretted having thrown it and he doesn't want it to land. But you have to say the Mishnah Patas the thrower in a way that after he remembers his Shabbos, vehezid, and he intended that his melacha should be finished, right? He wanted the melacha to be finished. After he remembered his Shabbos, there's mazid there. He intended the melacha to carry on. And since the end of the melacha was mazid, that's why he's potter from achatas. Yeah, because you need to be shogeg all the way along. Now, one who doesn't have erba shogeg is chayav chatas, but not one who does it b'mazid. So we bring a machlekes about shgoga and zadon, which the carbon. Rabbi Yezma Chanina Amar, he said, look, if there's shogeg chayav chatas, mazid is part of chatas. That is b'shogeg b'loi saser. He didn't know there was a lav. Of a mazid b'loi saser, and he knew this ma'aseh isur is a lav. Even if he didn't know that there's kores, whatever, but he knew it's a lav. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar b'shogeg b'hi kores, that it can be shogeg that he didn't know that there's kores on this, and even if he knew there's a lav. Or mazid b'hi kores, he knew you're chayav on this lav kores in order to be considered mazid as part of from chatas. Even one second, how are we reading this? Of mazid because he knew you're chayav on a lav kores, and that in order to be mazid, he'll be part of from chatas. He also know the is of the lav and the is of punishment of the kores as well. Tani v'lenta the brayser v'shim b'yachai v'sayeh. He supports Yerushalmi ben Levi. It says you'll have one Torah to one you do things b'shgaga, right? And the later passage says the person who does it beyond Rama is blaspheming, and he'll be cut off. The Lashon Aiseh b'shgaga v'hanefesh shetasa biyad Rama. We dash, and even if it's shogeg b'kares alone, this shogeg is chayav chatas. Then he says Hagas macha. He says, wait, think about it. It comes out according to Yerushalmi ben Levi. I feel amazing belav. He knew it was a lav, but shogeg b'kares. He didn't know there was kares here. Mastering by. We warn him, don't do the issur, but like it, he'll get lashes, or maybe, and he has to bring a carbon on his shogeg of kores. Now we bring another Amora, who says clearly it could be that on one Avera you can get malchus and achatas. So he ate chaylev, and he was mazid, but he was shogeg, he didn't know about the carbon. So he knew he's eating chaylev, it's forbidden, but he didn't know that you're chayav chatas. Mastery by, we can warn him for the chaylev, but like it, and he can get lashes on eating it, because he's over on the issa b'mezid, or maybe carbon, he bring a chatos on the shaking and eating. He didn't know how bad the issa was. Tony wrote to the Brisa, aim is asking. There's no p'tur of misasek. Yeah, misasek is you're involved in something else, and then you lead into something, right? Classic case, misasek. I suppose walking past a switch. Maybe. So, there's no din of exemption of misasek, not when it comes to chaylev or forbidden relationships. Misasek b'Shabbos, you do something in Maisa, and by mistake you did a mlacha. The classic case, you bend down to pick up a detached piece of grass, and in the end you picked up a piece which was connected. You are part from chatas. Chalavim v'arayos. If you're involved in these things by mistake, you're at chaylev, you're with the wrong woman, without having that kavanah, he is chayav chatas. Hey Chavida, what's the classic case? He says, Arani koitza chasi grapes. I'm just going to cut half a date of grape. Because groigos or fig, whatever. Because groigos, he ended up cutting too much. Pato is pato from chatas. Or Arani eichel chatzi zayis. I eat half of zayis from chaylev. Or half of the zayis. He ended up eating a whole zayis. Chayav is chayav. We're doing this as erva. Arani is chamba. He's just warming himself up. The heraba, and he went a bit too far. Then his din is, he is chayav chatos. Adon alacha zayrek. Yeah. Perek shnei masa. Habayna. Other malachas. We're talking about malacha building now. Habayna. Kama yimna yechav. How much to build and you'll be liable? Habayna kosho. Smallest amount. The Chachamim said a shim bayna. We're not mentioning the share. First, you're taking the malacha. Alright, so let's see. Bayna kosher is chai. The Mishnah talks about other malachas where it's the smallest amount. Hamasate, right, one who sort of puts the stone ready. Yeah? You're putting the stone ready for building. That's the derech. You put the stone down first. You smooth it a bit, whatever it is, getting it ready. It's a tolda of makeh b'patish. Right? It's like the final preparations in the stone to make it fitting for building. The Bavli learns a machlokes which malacha is mesatet. Rav says baina and Shmuel said makeh b'patish. According to Shmuel, I understand now why it's next to makeh b'patish in the Mishnah, and after that it mentions kadeach. You're talking about the malachas that you're chayav mesatet, right? That's the Bavli there. According to Rav, the Mishnah brings in mesatet and kadeach. They're both parts of baina, and then makeh b'patish is another malacha. Okay, and Masate. So one who is getting these stones ready, or the final hammer blow, Matzad, is like sort of planing, isn't it? Yeah? Is that what it says? Using a plane of some kind, and then your work is finished. Hakedeach, sort of drilling in the hole. If you do a share kosher, you're chayav. This is a rule. If your job lasts, then b'Shabbos, then you are chayav. Shmuel Gamliel, he says, I'm makeh b'kodes on a sadan, hitting on an anvil, whatever. B'shas melacha yachayev, meibnei shum besake melacha. You're sort of preparing it. You're preparing it for use. Yeah, you're hitting it, putting it into shape. Really, that's what you're doing here. It's an iron clamp in front of the craftsman. You put a piece of metal to hit on it to make it into a keli. All right. How much is binyan? Ma binyan over Mishkan. What building was in the Mishkan? They put the beams in the sockets. But that was temporary. Look, they followed Hashem's instruction. They never knew how long they're going to be in one place. Therefore, it's considered as permanent. But he's going to take them out of there. How can he treat it as permanent? How can he treat it as permanent when they knew they were going to be moving? You have to learn that even a temporary binyan is included in the malacha of binyan. Yeah, because they knew they were not going to stay. They knew they were going to move out. Now, it doesn't mean you're chayav on every temporary binyan. It's got to be something which is fitting to last. What it means is a binyan that you want it to be there for a while. The binyan on Mishkan was fitting to be there forever, but it was put up on the intention to be taken down. Okay? Now, Melachas Baina, we learn from the beams of the Mishkan on the sockets, so we learn three dinim. First of all, Afilim and Atzad, even a binyan is like a binyan. Basically, you crush him on the sockets without joining them to their place. It's still not binyan. So even done b'shino is treated as binyan. Hadar Amrei tells me afilu nasan al gabe davar acher. Even if it's standing on something else, it's not standing on the floor. Like these beams were on the sockets, they went on the floor. And Hadar Amrei binyan al gabe kelim binyan. Building on kelim is also binyan. Adanim Kikakehem. But then the Gemara says, no, not necessarily. The sockets are like land, not kalim. You can't learn from here that binyan al gabe kalim is binyan. Time learns in the price. One brings the stone, puts it down. One brings the cement. Maybe it's a titchas. One who brings the cement is liable. Rabbi Yosef, he says they're both liable. So Rabbi Yosef wanted to say Evan putting the stone in its place below it, even without mud, is considered binyan. Therefore, if you put it without joining with the cement, you're chayav boina. Now there is a case where everyone agrees. Look, if you put the cement first, and then you put the stone on top, you are liable. You're the one who puts the stone on top. The top row of the stones of the wall, even without being cementing, the top row of stones, chayav, you are liable. Why is he telling this? Even Rabbanan, who are going to be Yosef, even though they say usually you're not chayav putting a stone without cementing it, but they agree if you put it on the top row of the wall, then you're chayav even without cementing it. The one who leaves beams on the walls of the house, I don't know, he leaves beams on top of the boards of the house. Or you make other sort of areas for the entrance of the house. You're sort of cutting out stone from the mountains and the rocks, or capping, or you're cutting out wood, and wood for poles, for pillars, or mills, or you're cutting various types of stones from the mountains, and then you're cutting them and you're smoothing them. All are in the process of preparing for building. Yeah. Even according to the Bavli, that Boina was not said with Kalim, but preparing these rocks or pillars, whatever, you're chayav because of Boina, because that's how you make a new Kali. Everyone agrees there is binyan b'Kalim. But also because these stones will be connected in the end to a building or to the land, so therefore they've got a din of Boina already now. Rav Yemi Shemra, Hamakiv Mitzah Shel Gila. You have like a foldable bed which fits together. You get it ready on Shabbos. It's like you're taking a brick form, and you sort of put it on the bricks. You do it your patur. So just putting this bed together, which sort of fits together, you should be patur. Rav Nunayre, he passed in the Resh Galusa, Lahate Shulchan Shaprokim b'Shabbos. He allowed you to take apart this table on Shabbos. Armin them wrote, they said, Rav Chuda Ba'achir Avaime, he was with him to allow it. Shor Rav Yehuda heard this. Armin said, the one who passed on that to Resh Galusa, that you can take apart the table, Lo Yalav didn't really learn Torah very well, but Lo Shimish, he didn't serve the scholars. Rav Shammai says, the one who passed to the Resh Galusa, you're allowed to do it, is Kurv Shimon ben Gamliel like him. The tiny we've learned levachim, which are wooden boards, shurasfina shabrisa, which are in a cart or on a boat, which are there for you to sit on. But aklite amita, like the poles, two-poster bed of some kind, with the middle of the bed, to put a sheet over it. V'rega shulchan, and a table chair, v'yad hasakin, and like part of a handle of a knife, shapirshu, which have come away. Harez layasa, you shouldn't put them back, even if they're weak. If you did put it back in a rough way, right, in a weak way, you're part of him taka. But if you use much more force to put them back strongly, you're liable. He said, if in the beginning they were weak, you can take them from the place of masa and put them back, and there's no problem of bonus. If they're made to come in and out, then we're saying there's no problem of bonus. He says, I'll tell you, you're not allowed to strengthen these kalim. But he says you don't have to worry that because people will put these kalim in a weak way, they'll come and strengthen it hard as well. Yeah? Basically, they hold a keli where the parts come together easily. You're allowed to take it apart and put it together again. And that's why you can do this shulchan shel prokim. It was done in a roughwood way. Yeah? Whereas Rav Yehuda was a bit more strict. Even Kli Rafa, he was worried. Okay. Tani, we've learnt in a brisa. Now, you've got these boards of the ship. When they are kavuim, fixed in their place through nails or pegs and so on, chibur, they are considered connected as far as tumah and hazayah sprinkling on mechatos. When they're not fixed, but just tekuim, they're sort of pushed in hard, then they're not considered connected. Midrabanan, they are considered chibur l'tumah. So chibur as far as tumah is concerned, but ain't a chibur l'hazah, but not for sprinkling. Hanoilin v'hanoisnin, if you take kalim where you put part of their parts, you sort of put them together and break them apart, then even when they are connected, ain't a chibur, they're not really connected. Lo l'tumah, or not lo l'hazah, not for sprinkling. Now, you see here, in our Torah, these parts are not, they're not considered as kli echad. So you're not chayav for putting them together. In the previous brayso, you're telling me, you put these parts together strongly, you're chayav melachas boina. They're considered connected. So we've got a contradiction. So Gemara says, Tamam, the second brayso, darkan lekava, usually you use these nails. So lo likva, so if you didn't use the nails, einan chibur, they're not considered connected. But the first brayso, you want to use a keli without fitting it with nails. To kiyasan hi gemar malachta, like pushing it in, that is the gemar malacha. If you do that on Shabbos, you chayav makim b'patish. Okay, what about putting kelim together? We bring a brayso. Tony, if Simayomi says a makim keren agula, which is like a musical instrument, you put it together, you are chayav. Keren shuta, a more straightforward horn, where there's tons of space for these reeds to go in, you are potter. The rest of Shimon, he said, you put back the kanei menorah, some of the parts of the menorah you put back to the main part of the menorah on Shabbos, you are chayav. And one who adds various parts, lekana shel sayadin, to some sort of trapper's stick, you are potter for that. Now, the one brings from Lezer of Shimon, if you put back kanei menorah, you put back the musical things, lama, why you chayav? Rabbi Bav Rabbi Yechon, and Rav Chona, they both said, Mishum Baina. Yechaim because of Baina. Adding various parts to Kol Haloshon to like the fisherman's one, Lamo Potter, the hunter's one, why you Potter, Minei, Shuhum Menamalan Lematan. Because putting it together, you put the pieces at the bottom of it, and it's not really a derech of binyan. It's an unusual way of, usually you build, usually you start, which way around is it? You put in the pieces at the bottom of a koneh. That's not derech binyan, because the way is to go, he says, melamata lamala. Usually you work your way up. He says that when you build a wall, you start at the bottom, work your way up. Yeah? And that was the way in the Mishkan. The Adonim were put on the ground, and the Koshim were put on top of them. Okay. Hativun. Now, wait a minute. Someone digging. You're making, what are you doing? You're making boards to support the dig. You made a bottom hole in the ground. You want woods to support it. The deeper you go, you're adding more beams under the existing luchos. And you're telling me that you are chayav because of lechos haboina. Why is it if you're adding various kanash siyad in your potter? Because you've added above to below. It seems it should be the other way around. You shouldn't be chayav if you're above to below. Usually you start below and work your way up. The painter's stick, whatever, l'shah, it's only put together for a short period of time, and then you take it apart again. Since it's not really the way of building, it's not matter, it's your potter. Whereas Khan, digging the pit, the luchas are going to stay lishmas, they'll stay there for a while. So therefore, whatever it is, whether you do it above from below or below from above, is considered the way of binyan, and you do it on Shabbos, you are liable. Shmuel says, "Malachem is hatirsin." You put together; these are like shutters of the shops on Shabbos. Chaim mishum boina, malachas boina. The kasha. How can that be? Now in Bavli it says, according to Beis Shammai, you can't take apart the shutters on Yom Tov. According to Beis Hillel, you can take them, put them up, take them apart, in order that people will have access to food on Yom Tov. Yeah, that's the reason of Beis Hillel. So Bekashia, it can be so bad on Shabbos Chayav Chatos, and Beis Hillel will allow you to do it on Yom Tov. They allowed you to put it back so that you'll open in the first place. Otherwise, you'll never open your shop. Right? You're going to tell me Shalai Yachzeh, don't put them back. You won't bother opening the shop in Yom Tov because everything will be stolen. And therefore they allowed you to open it in order to close it as well. But like someone don't open your shop. He said, no, there'll be no food then. Said, you can put the shutters back. So don't do it fully. Don't tighten it. Just connect it weakly. Because there's no real purpose for Yom Tov. They allow you to return it just to stop you not wanting to open your shop. So do as little as you can. He says the hatter to go and put these shutters back is only because you haven't got a door. Look, you can use your door. Take it from the shop through the doorway. You don't have to start opening the shutters. Masneh said, our mission is the view of Rav Shimon, who holds if you do a malacha on Shabbos, you're not chayev unless you do the whole malacha that you intended to do. Right? The Gemara brings a brisa. The Tani we read, Hagoyred, you're dragging a pole to sort of smoothen it, yeah? Hakadeach, you make a hole in wood or stone. Hakotzeit, you cut branches of wood. You do any of these malachas, kosher, b'Shabbos, chayev. Even if you didn't finish the malacha, which you intended, you're chayev. But Rav Shimon said no. Hagoyred, you have to do the lot. Hakadeach, making a hole, you have to do the lot. Hakotzeit, cutting wood, you're not chayev, you have to cut the wood, cut the lot. Tanning the skins, you have to do as much as you wanted to do. Rabbi said we had it in Beira as well. The Yerushalmi holds Beira, you only chayiv if you do the whole biro, yeah? So our Mishnah which says if you do a malach on Shabbos, you're chayiv only if it lasts, and your will is according to Shimon. We're going to Tanakam, if you do a malacha that you got to carry on more, you're still chayiv. Rabbi Yaakov Aracha lo yasya elakim Shimon. Shimon lo avad mixes malacha gegula. He doesn't treat parts of malacha like the whole thing. Rabbanan avdin mixes malacha gegula. Rabbanan said if you do parts of it, it's as if you've done the whole thing. Now Shimon Gamliel said if you hit on a block for Shas malacha you're chayiv because you're like preparing the thing. And the Gemara understood the chiv because you're like preparing your hands to do work. The kasha to Shimon Gamliel. What would it be? Preparing for malacha is considered malacha. Ilonata ligsa. You take some sort of scythe to cut grain. But like kata, you didn't cut with it. Shema klumu. Are you going to tell me you're chayav for that? Ravada asked Shimon Gamliel Rabbi Yehuda. That we should do. Rabbi Yehuda. He said ashrevet. Shrevet is you have the threads and you pass something through it to sort of separate them. Yeah, a sort of you have a bat of some kind to separate the threads. So ashrevet namekat keit hala orig, or you add on the threads of the woof onto the weft, you add different threads on. You're doing an action of tikkun, improving your ethic, improving your work ethic, improving your ability, and that's included in the malacha. Here you're hitting with this corners. Again, you're preparing the malacha that you're dealing with. The minig is to hit on this thing time to time, and it's part of the malacha itself. It's not like taking the scythe, which is the previous to the malacha, and not included in the malacha. This is mamish part of the malacha. One who plows the smallest amount, the menakesh, which is what? Pruning, and mekaseim, detaching bad leaves, dry leaves from the tree, and zareid, cutting wet branches so they shouldn't take away the power of the tree. Kosher, the smallest amount, you are chayav. Amalaked eitzim, detaching wood from the tree. If you're doing it letakein, to repair the tree or the ground, you're chayav, even if you did it kosher, the smallest amount. If, however, lahasik, you want the wood for fuel, the shear is, today there should be enough that you gather to lavashal beisakala to cook a small egg. Amalaked asavim, detaching grasses, if you're doing letakein to improve the land, you're chayav even kosher, the smallest amount. But if you did it lebehema to feed an animal, then only kumlai pigadi has got to be a mouthful for a goat. What plow was in the Mishkan? They would plow to sow the dyes to make various Shemen and Mishcha. The Kama Yachwe how much plowing to be liable? Rabbi Matani he said, Krelita Kresha, to sow a Kresha. What's a Kresha? Some cabbage or some leek of some kind, cabbage. Rabbi Bar B'Shem Rav, what do they call it there? Do they know? Rabbi Bar B'Shem Rav, he says you do a ploughing which has got a shekre lita zachrusa. This is like the end edge, the top edge of a piece of wheat. It's like a very tiny edge of a piece of wheat. Taman Taninan, we have learnt elsewhere in Bavli, if you're taking something on Shabbos from Shus to Shus, Zera Kishuin seeds, aubergine sort of thing, seeds, Yechayev, only if you did it, or cucumber seeds, Yechayev, you took Shnaim, 2. Zera Diluin, pumpkin seeds, Shnaim, 2. Because that is what you usually carry, you always have 2 of them. Even though you're not going to bother carrying less than 2 types of seeds, so you're not chayav on taking 1 seed, but the chiv of charisha, even if you plow, for 1 seed, you are chayav. The pips of the median wheat, you're chayav on taking them out on Shabbos, shtaim, if you carry 2. Now this wheat is there for eating. Why isn't it like other foods? The shir gregorus is the normal shir for food. Chitin, the median wheat, because everyone likes them, so we don't treat it as other food, but also some other garden seeds, which are not usually eaten, where the shir is 2 seeds. Now we said if you're taking grasses to improve the ground, you're chayev, and if you do it to give to your animals, it's what the goat will eat in his mouth. Why mention grasses if you're doing it letakin to improve the land? You're chayev kol shu. And we've already said this about taking wood. And lamali, why do you have to mention if you take it for animal food, the shir is kumlai pigidi, what the goat will eat? And we already know this. We've come across this before. Very good question. We have no answer. There are other girsahs here. Since was asking the Mishnah and it answers it. Why do you need the first halacha, taking grasses to improve the land, is kol shuhu? We already said this with taking wood. And the answers, it's not a chidush. It's brought because the second in with the grasses. If it's for food, then the shir is for what the goat puts in his mouth. That wasn't said with wood. Okay, Rabbi Isaac, to be continued, yeah?